So the one I'm sharing now, this is called Notion. Notion is kind of cool because this is the one that I was talking about as far as like it gives you the ability. This is documentation with topics that this was our documentation that I uploaded to this AI model, right? So just to show you what I was talking about earlier, I can go in here and I can type, this is the AI model, right? This is my simple text editor with Markdown in there. Now, you can see here that it's giving me a preview. So even though this file was a Markdown file, let me see if I can show you this too. I mean, what the heck? I might as well go all the way through it. So this is Markdown. Let's see. Exporting publisher now.
So this is a Markdown editor.
Yeah,
right?
this is well, actually, this is Notepad++. It's a simple editor.
Simple editor, got it.
Right, and you can see here I can go to language and I can say Markdown pre-installed. I click on that, and it's what that does for you is like this line under here. In Markdown++, that's a title. I mean, Markdown simple syntax starts with just a heading 1, heading 2, heading 3. We know that technical writers like chapter titles and titles, so they can have a larger hierarchy or information architect when they're putting documentation in, right? You're going to find code developers most of the time are only writing for one topic. So a heading 1 is typically all they need, right? You can also see here that this is a comment in Markdown, and it's an include. So we're actually mapping topics into this document. So when it parses out the HTML, it looks like a full document set, you know? So this is what the original document looks like. This is the preview of it that this simple text editor, this program is giving me.
And what's this program called?
This is the Notion.
Okay.
Okay. And so with this, and you can see here it has a little trouble, like the image couldn't be loaded. That's because we did a path to the image. We like to keep our, again, this is information architect. We keep our media resources different than the topics themselves, and we use a link to put it in to the published output. So you're going to run into a few things like this, but what we're doing or how we're using this is that I've got all my content in there. So now I can start asking this the AI some simple questions, right? So I say, how do I create a heading in Markdown? Simple question, right? Most users, this is about the level that they're going to get at when they do a prompt for a Markdown, for an AI tool. So it thinks about it. Now, here's the thing: since this is a tool, now this is on my desktop, so this is actually faster. I get a faster response than I would if I was using their SaaS tool. Okay, so I know speed is an element that we want to be concerned with when we're offering documentation to our users, but there are tons of ways to improve that if you're actually going to start using it and incorporating it. So don't pay too much attention to that. What we're focusing on here is that you can see here to create a heading in Markdown, use the hashtag symbol followed by a space, then your heading text. So it's telling me how to do it, right? But then also too, it gave me some resources here, you know, and like this is what I'm saying, well, okay, this is where it pulled from. You can see it's telling me with the number 1 there that this is the top resource that it pulled this answer from. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes.
Okay, and so I'm going, well, you know, I really want to talk about tables, so let's click on tables, and now it's telling me how to do it in a table. And it's got that information on the table and what I need to do. So that's kind of taken away the need or necessity to have a very specific prompt or to focus this AI. Basically, this AI is saying, okay, here's a simple answer to what you're asking. Did you want more information? Because here are the resources I used to gather those resources for you, right? This, though, you need to limit this. This is limited. This is not an internet search to where I'm looking for every resource on the internet to tell me how to do a heading, right? Too much information. It's going to go crazy. That's when you start hallucinating, right? So this, though, the way I limited the scope of the AI model was to upload my documentation. And I said, you're only searching through my documentation. So this is in the context of how it would work if you were creating content for a particular user.
This is a great example.
Okay, and so
Yeah.
you've got this is one. Another one that I like down is this is Marktation. And I like this one because if you don't know anything about Markdown at all, this is the one I would suggest people to get started on. Because as you can see, it is literally a simple window to start typing into, right? This is like an email. I mean, I've got, it isn't quote unquote editor, but it's really a simple email. You can see here it says press / for commands and space for AI. So I can do a / here. And then you can see how it gives me a list of Markdown things that I can do, right? So here's my heading again. It's telling me hashtag plus space. So very simplistic, you know, text, code, quotes. These are the things that I would have to enter in to get this result. Bulleted list. So if I wanted a bulleted list, I can press that. And now it's giving me an option to say, you know, list item here.
So are these tools for free?
Yes, they're all for free.
They're all for free. I see.
Yes.
So this is not something WebWorks proprietary.
No. I can show you what we do as well. Because actually, to tell you the truth, you could get it for free from our website also. Just download the trial version. Because the trial version has Markdown sources. And then you can also do the Markdown plus, what we call Markdown plus. And like if you look at, like if you go to our documentation here, in our documentation, we have authoring source documents, right? And so we have Markdown plus source documents, learning Markdown, learning plus.
Okay.
So you can use this as a guide. You can see if I go to learning Markdown, these are some very simple things that are already in the Markdown simple basic syntax. You know, how things that you want to do. How do you create a link? You know, we've got that information for you right here. But if I go to Markdown plus, you can see these are things that we've added that you can do now with Markdown. So we can do aliases, markers, conditional text, file includes, variables.
And this
right?
is not available with regular Markdown, right?
Well, yes, that's the beauty of Markdown, right? Is that if you know the syntax, you've got it with your Markdown. But, so don't look at it as a feature with Markdown. You need to look at it as a feature with my generator or my parser, right? Only with ePublisher right now is the only tool that reads Markdown plus.
Okay.
So if I wanted to generate an output, let's see here. And this is our ePublisher tool. I'll show you this real quick. And I promise you, this is not a plug for ePublisher. I'm just kind of explaining how it works. But if we do, let's go to this. This is going to have it. So you can see here my exploring ePublisher. You can see this is that include that I was talking about.
Okay.
Okay. So if I explore the file, this is where I'm keeping my source documents. And right now, this is all local. If you go to our product cloud drafts, this can happen the exact same way in the cloud as well, right? But if you see here, I've got my topics here, and these are all my topics. You know, if you look at like the first topic I have in this include is learning Markdown, right? So if I go to my source documents, you can see here I have learning Markdown. That's that file. And if I open up that file, you can see this is even more like a Markdown. This is Markdown basic syntax, right, that I have in here. Pretty much all I'm doing is that I'm bringing in like this reference here. That's basic Markdown. This line item here, or this list here, basic Markdown. So what's cool about it is that you can see here that I have, I can do links or references in my list as well. So it's really cool. As you can see, I just have one dot here for each one of the line items. Markdown, any parser will automatically add it. Like the next one would be a 2, my generated output. The next one would be a 3, things like that. So I don't have to worry about counts. I can just put the 1 point and the parser does it for me. But when I do my output, you can see here, I'm going from this, right? Learning ePublisher Markdown plus syntax, ePublisher Express, and one-click publishing. I'm including these topics, and then it's publishing out. My parser's publishing out and giving me. It's incorporating those files into my final output. So when I'm actually generating my final output, I'm going to have, in this particular instance, I'm going to have an HTML document that has my full document set into it, right?
Okay.
And I'm doing that all through, it's going to be able to take this include and include it in the proper position. Not only will it include it in the proper position in my output, it'll also build it into my TOC, and it also builds into my search capabilities. You know, so I mean, just by so you can have this authoring capability in any simple text editor. Like I use Notebook++. I know Markdown++, right? And so I can actually, since I know it, I know how to do the includes and stuff. I mean, I can, we have documentation so you can learn it, but you can see here that this built that ePublisher. It got me all my topics in there. It got a TOC. Even my filtering, I can filter out, you know, my search filters for when I'm searching for, you know, headers or something like that. I can sit there and say, okay, well, I want headings. I only want my headings in my exploring ePublisher. So I can filter out my results that way. All that's done, and I've got a fully functional HTML output that has all these filters built in, and then that I can run Google Analytics behind. I can put it somewhere and run Google Analytics behind it.
So this is like
All
pretty
from
much the end-to-end workflow that we talked about.
I'm sorry, say again?
This is pretty much the end-to-end workflow that we talked about.
Exactly. And I'm doing it, you know, now of course I didn't go through any of the edit review process and stuff like that, but basically that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get from here to here. And I just did it using a Markdown. Not only did I use a Markdown document, I've got a lot of features in here that I can that are technical writing features that they need, you know, when they're trying to put that in, when they're trying to do their work. We can also have AI tools that can interject metadata for taxonomies, for information architect. They can either do it in a metadata form or they can do it in a commenting form, right? So this is what you can now do with Markdown in a simple text editor. I'm still keeping this all very readable, and I can do this all straight on my keyboard. I don't even have to touch my mouse at all. In our particular product, in our workflow, all the styling information is contained here in our product, right? And that's what we do is basically we just create a stationery. It's like a style guide, and then we apply that style guide when publishing, right? If you don't have that capability, a lot of the parsers like in GitHub, things like that, those parsers, they already have a predetermined, or they allow the browser that you're viewing to determine what the styling is going to be. So you don't have any control over the styling, right? That really, I mean, for edit and review, it's nice. Where you run into troubles is that, you know, it's like, okay, how do I really want to format my table? How do I really want to format my list? It really comes into play if you're trying to put warnings or tips and tricks in there, you know. But right now we have a parser that can handle all that and can do all that, you know. But this is where the conversation needs to happen. This is why you and I are having this conversation. It's not to plug my product, even though we have the best one out there, but we need to have these conversations. We need to get onto sites like Common Mark, because right now, probably the biggest issue facing Markdown as a viable editing tool, authoring tool, is that, first of all, there is no Markdown standard. I mean, you've got Markdown that John Gruber developed years ago, and then you've got a GitHub flavored Markdown, right? whereas some of the syntax in the GitHub flavored Markdown does not match the original basic syntax in the John Gruber. And John Gruber wanted it like that because he gave his Markdown syntax the ability to read straight HTML if you wanted to type in straight HTML. The problem is you kind of get away from that readability because HTML has a lot more syntax to it than Markdown. You know, so these are the reasons why we said, okay, you know, this is the reasons why we're going to do it this way. And you know, this is why we put in the documentation on our website. Like I said, to get to it, I just went to the website, www.webworks.com, resources documentation. And it's right there. And you can read all the documentation about it and what we've done. And we're continuing to develop it because right now this is a local solution you'd install on your desktop. But we're going to make it a SaaS solution, which I think that's where everybody's going to take this. You know, that includes taxonomy, includes the information architect, things like that. And it's going to be especially helpful when it comes to when you want to generate output that has the chat ability from an AI mechanism. You know, we're going to be able to provide that for you as well. I don't think we're going to be the only ones. I think I am a competitor. I think healthy competition is a good thing. So, you know, the more people that learn about this, I think the more competitors that we have out there that see what we're doing, they're going to start going this way as well. One of the, and I would recommend if you do come to our website, I would recommend getting on our contact us. This is our mailing list, because right now, one of the biggest examples or success stories, I guess we call them, that we have right now is that we have a channel partner in Germany, and they're giving this webinar on June 4th. And this webinar is that they've taken ePublisher, which is our product, our parser, 2023, and then they've taken Markdown++, which is the Markdown that we have, and then they have a CMS system, and they've incorporated the whole workflow. And so they're giving a webinar on that, which I think is great because I like to show people this workflow and I like to get more and more people familiar with it. But I want people to ask questions. So this particular webinar, and we're still going to promote it like through social media and stuff, but this particular webinar is going to be in German. I'm negotiating with our channel partner now to give it again in English. So once we get that date set for that, we'll email all the people on our email list and give them details about when that's going to happen, because I think this is going to be a really good example of a workflow of the future.
And this would be using WebWorks.
That particular webinar will be using WebWorks, yes.
Got it. Okay.
You know, but basically, I think is what people need to concentrate on is kind of that workflow, because even though I like the workflow and I think it's the way to go, we still don't have all the answers yet for all the needs of a technical writer when they're creating documentation, right? So we have to build that into the syntax of Markdown so that we can create that. But we have to build it in a way what we're really focusing on is that we want to build it in a way to where, like, if you put one of our Markdown++ documents into a content management system like GitHub, GitHub can still give you a readable preview. So if you are going to do edit and review in GitHub, you're able to do it, right? And then you might just use our tool to generate the output. You know, we want people to adopt a standard, which what we're trying to produce right now is Markdown++, and that's what we want. We want to start a conversation you know, around, okay, what do we need? What syntax do we need in Markdown that will provide for the needs of the technical writer and still hold true to what John Gruber wanted, which was a simple, readable file when you're creating that content and passing information. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes great sense. And I know we are way over time.
Right. I'm sorry.
No, please don't apologize. I'm glad that we got to this demo so that our customers can get a flavor of what the workflow that we've been talking about looks like.
Well, I hope I was able to articulate clearly enough. If not, I'm always at webworks.com. My email address is christopher@webworks.com. So if they have questions, we can definitely follow up. I mean, I would encourage them to get in touch with you And if they want another presentation to cover some more of the tools, how to get more familiar with Markdown, how to get more familiar with that process, I'd love to come back and give a presentation on that as well.
I might just take you up on that, and maybe we'll have round two of this
Absolutely, I'd
great
love it.
discussion that we've had. Christopher, I really appreciate your time and everything that you've shared. And I have learned much
Good,
more about Markdown and just how I can make myself more valuable to a business. And hopefully, this is what my listeners will take away. But thank you for your
absolutely.
time and have a
Well,
wonderful evening.
thank you for having me here. I really enjoyed this conversation, and you have a wonderful evening as well.
Thank you.